Schwinns. Do you know that your Schwinn is a genuine made in Chicago USA Schwinn? How do you know? Are you sure that's what you got? If you're a Schwinn person, that's why you're here, you probably know. A lot of people don't know. Schwinn pretty much closed up shop in 1982, and that was the end. Now, from 83 to 84, Murray assembled Schwinns from genuine Schwinn parts, for those 2 years, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first I'm going to talk about the easily recognizable details of a genuine Schwinn frame. So you know, that's what this video is all about. I looked all over YouTube, I can't find it, so I'm doing it for you. This here is like a 1950s straight bar. This is a frame that a lot of us guys that build clunkers want. What we really want is the pre-war Schwinns. Now those frames are denoted by dropouts that are rear-facing dropouts. These are called safety dropouts. Now, one of the things that you're going to look for to know you have a genuine Schwinn frame, most easy thing to notice right off the bat is an electro-forged head tube. You see these nice curves here? That's not welded, that's not brazed. The way they made that is, this head tube is 2 pieces. If you were to look in here, you'll see a seam. It's 2 pieces. And it's flash welded together with a lug into this top tube and this down tube. And every frame you look at, you'll see there's a little imperfection here, because that's where they, use whatever tool they use to try to sand that smooth. It's super strong head tube. It's very hard to break this head tube. It's one of the reasons why Schwinn is what it is. Cadillac of bikes, right? So that's the number one thing you want to look for. If your frame does not have an electroforged head tube, it was not made in Chicago, USA, period. So that's it, number one. What else are you going to look for? Well, you're going to look at the bottom bracket, and you're going to look for a seam right here along this bottom bracket. It could be here, it could be here, it could be back here, but it's always on the bottom there. Another thing you look for are these seams here where the chain stays meet the bottom bracket. That was a cold forged ramming process that created that. You want to look for the integral kickstand mount. Now, some of the older Schwinns didn't have a kickstand. I don't know what the year is there. I'm not going to get into all that. Serial numbers. They don't really mean anything if it's not a real Schwinn as far as made in Chicago. This one happens to have it here on the left rear dropout. Earlier ones have them on the bottom bracket, and then later they switched and they started placing them right here on the right side of the head tube. What else? You're going to see here there's some pinching in the chainstay and the seat stay where they meet the rear dropout. That's it. That's what you want to look for. Now this bike here happens to have a fender bridge that's shaped there. See how it's hollow under here? This frame's also cracked here and here. It happens a lot with these bikes. So, and the right way to fix that, by the way, is brazing, not welding, just so you know. You'll also see on some of these bikes where there's a higher rise flat piece of metal here, and that's called a brake bridge. You call this a fender bridge, the other one's a brake bridge, because you would mount a caliper brake to it. Those are the identifying marks for a genuine, made in USA, Chicago USA Schwinn frame. We're pretty much done. But I'll talk about some of these other frames here. So this is your standard cruiser frame. This frame in particular is kind of interesting. You learn a little something more here. This frame is a 5-speed ATUM drum brake frame. How do I know that? Well, number one, serial number is 1979, tells me. The sticker here is warning me for the wet rims for a hand brake up front, caliper brake, side pull, some of you call it. It's spaced for a 5-speed wheel, and that's a fender bridge, not a brake bridge. So that means this bike came with a drum brake, kind of a rare frame. So if you want to build a correct drum brake 5-speed Schwinn, made in Chicago, USA Schwinn, this is the frame you want. Another thing about Schwinns, made in USA Schwinns, the head badge is attached with screws. If you see rivets holding your head badge on, not made in Chicago. You got me? You're learning, aren't you? Again, you'll see a seam down here. You see the pinches at the chain stays and the seat stays. See where the kickstand goes in there? This is a genuine, made in USA Chicago Schwinn. This is a triangle frame, right? This is like a varsity frame. This happens to be a Suburban. Same thing. Electro forged head tube. Pinched stays. Seam at the bottom bracket. Chicago. Doesn't have a head badge on it, but Chicago made frame. Good to go. This is a Taiwan frame. Started making these, and I'm not sure if it was as early as 85. I know 86, 87, I'm pretty sure they were out there. Got some weight to them. And you'll notice a couple things. Number one, the head badge is held on with rivets. If you see those rivets, not made in the USA. You see the down tube, top tube, the way they attach to the head tube. Those are welds right there. If you see welds, not made in the USA. They made them in Taiwan, then they made them in Hungary. The Hungary bikes are a little nicer, in my opinion. But those are not made in the USA. Now they're made in China. Garbage. No pinches at the stays. You can see these dropouts. Does have the integral kickstand mount. That's what throws a lot of people off. What's next? Right here I have a 1984. I'm going to take this here and show you what to look for with it. I'm sorry, it's a 1983 Schwinn Cruiser frame. It has the electro forged head tube. It has the brake bridge. It has the pinched stays. It has the kickstand mount. It lacks the seams where the chain stays come into the bottom bracket. That always throws people off. You see that odd seam that doesn't protrude. It does have some markings here on the bottom bracket, and there's always a glob of weld right here where the down tube meets the bottom bracket. I don't know why this doesn't want to focus. It's always giving me a hard time. There you go. If you were to pull this crank set out, it's all made from Schwinn parts. So it's an Ashtabula crank, and you'll see a date on there. This one is 1983. And they also put a piece of steel, an extra piece of steel that wraps inside the bottom bracket from here all the way around to give reinforcement to those tubes into the bottom bracket. And this frame, if I flip it up for you without too much of a problem, I apologize for not being super pro, but I am not a professional videographer. If you see here, that's a BU, or DU, sorry, which denotes it as 1983. This is kind of neat. It's got this part here that allows you to run a caliper brake on a blade fork. It's a neat little detail there. Again, there's your brake mount. And, I mean, here is a varsity that I've turned into a clunker. Again, this is an 18.5-inch frame, but it has the electro forged tube. Head tube right there. That's what you want to look for. And that's it, people. These are the identifying marks of a genuine Schwinn. So if it doesn't have those pinch stays, if it doesn't have the electro forged head tube, if the badge is held on with rivets and not screws, then it is not a genuine USA made Schwinn. And, you know, look, everybody's got a different opinion out there on this stuff. I know that there's a lot of bikes being made that are new Schwinns. There's bikes that have been out for 20 or 30 years that are not Schwinn. They say Schwinn. They got the Schwinn name on them. People will argue about it. But I get it. If you see a Schwinn that you want to own, and it's like a Springer front Stingray, you wanted one as a kid, you could buy the Chinese knockoff, I get it, but it's not worth any money. Have a good day, and I hope this helps.